Hi, and welcome to episode 75. Today, my guest is David George Brooke, the gratitude guy. David has been a speaker, coach, and best-selling author for over 25 years. He's a former Nordstrom store manager and has managed in the corporate world for over 30 years. He's published works including the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal, 6-Word Lessons to Embrace Gratitude, and a number of other books on gratitude. As a result of his passion for gratitude, he's presented over 650 speeches, workshops in the past 6 years, and he's traveled nationally and internationally to deliver this important message. He has 1,000 gratitude videos on YouTube and over 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Thousands have seen his message, and he is now considered a leading authority on how living a life of gratitude can enhance and improve your life, and he lives in Seattle, Washington. So welcome to the call, David.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we first met at a live event, but you knew who I was already.
Yes,
at
I'd
that time.
seen before, I think, the ebook coach and that type of
Mhm.
thing. So I kind of
Mhm.
knew who you were. That was a neat event that we met at. I met a lot of neat people.
Yeah, that was a neat event. Yeah, that was through Vicki Winterton at the
Yes,
Magic
exactly.
Castle in Hollywood. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
She puts on her what is it? It's a once a year, I think it is,
I,
event.
I think once a
Yeah,
year. Yeah.
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 But anyway, so I thought it was a good time to talk about gratitude. We're getting towards the end of the year. It's been a hard year. And so I reached out to you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how did you become a gratitude authority?
You bet. You bet. Well, it started actually back when I was 19 years old, many, many years ago, when I went and did a talk for a teacher of mine that had me in his class, and he wanted me to come and talk to his students about what was it going to take to be successful. So I was a freshman at the University of Washington, and I went to this high school to speak to this class. And when I got done speaking, I went out in my car and I sat there in my car and I thought, that's what I want to do someday. I want to be a motivational speaker.
Hmm.
And it took me about 45 years to realize that dream. I mean, I did
Wow.
everything else. As you heard, I mentioned that I was managing Nordstrom stores and other big box stores like Lowe's, and it was always kind of in that retail world. But I'd had a lot of tragedies along the way. My parents died when I was relatively young. I was in my 20s when my mother passed away from cancer, and then my parents had been divorced, which was tough. And my father
Mm.
ended his own life, and he was a successful attorney and decided he didn't want to live anymore. And then about 10 or so years later, I was married and had 2 kids. My wife passed away. So there was a
Wow.
number of deaths, yeah, and deaths and traumas and setbacks and things. And so
Mm.
at some point, I was just really looking for a coping mechanism that was healthy. And I think there's so many unhealthy ones. And you think about the people that drink and smoke and drugs and prescription medication and so forth. And so I had a friend of mine that at one point said, you need to get a gratitude journal. And I said, what is that? And I was not familiar with it. Well, it's a journal you write in every day and you talk about what you're grateful for and you just take a little time and so forth. And so they kind of came together, the speaking of being the motivational speaker and this gratitude. And I thought, gosh, why don't I start talking about gratitude? And then at some point I thought, somebody said, oh, you're that gratitude guy. And
Ah.
I've heard you speak before. Oh, that's kind of a good moniker, or that's kind of a good name. And it's funny because since then, people will say, well, David George Brooke or David Brooke. And they may or may not remember me, but I have people come up to me in Starbucks quite a bit and go, you're that gratitude guy. I saw you speak at so-and-so. So it's turned out to be a good sort of a tag or tagline, but that's what really got me going. And then I just started out small and started speaking to small groups in the service organizations, Rotary, Chamber, Lions, Kiwanis, and that type of thing. And it just kept growing and getting bigger and bigger. And now I've been fortunate to speak to as many as 10,000 soldiers at Joint Base
Wow.
Lewis McChord here in the Northwest. So it really fulfilled a lifelong dream to become a speaker. And it was my early 60s when I finally did it. And now I've been doing this now for about 8 or 9 years. And it's just the most satisfying work I've ever done, not
Well, that
without
is
question.
so awesome because how many people say, "Oh, I'm too old." I remember when I first wanted to write a book, I was in my late 40s and I'm like, "Well, am I too old?" I mean, I laugh now,
Yeah.
but at the time, that was what I thought, and I know a lot of people think that, and it's so rewarding when I have older people in my book writing boot camp,
So
and they think that that the dream's over, that they could never do it, and now they're finally fulfilling their dream of writing a book. So I know
well,
exactly what you mean.
That's a great point, Ellen. And I think I have kind of my heroes. And I think about Colonel Sanders started
Mhm.
Kentucky Fried Chicken when he was 63.
Yeah.
John Houseman, the famous actor, was 71 when he started acting, and he got an Academy Award for The Paper
Wow.
Chase.
Oh, I love
And
him. I loved him.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was phenomenal, but he didn't start
Yeah.
until his late 60s. And then you have people like a lot of people know of the Mary Kay Ash, Ray Kroc, people
Mhm.
like that. They were in their mid 40s to early 50s in many
Mhm.
cases. J.C. Penney, I think, was 52 when he started his store. So I look at a lot of those people as kind of my heroes. And as I say, I was 62, and I just thought, are you going to finally fulfill this dream, or are you going to keep working in retail and not ever be what you want to be? And I wanted to have my sons, be proud of their dad that he set out to do something. And so that's what got me finally going.
Right, right. So how do people get an attitude of gratitude? Are there
Well,
any
I
tricks and tips to this, or what's the deal?
Well, great question. And I think that I will say the centerpiece of my talks is my gratitude journal. And
Mhm.
when I first got that gratitude journal, I ordered one from Amazon. And I tell people in my talks, if you get a gratitude journal, you can get mine. It's available on Amazon, but you can also get a spiral notebook. The key is to write in it every single day. And even if you start out slowly and you just write a bullet point or two about, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my family, my kids, that's the way to start. And then you can kind of expand. And I write in mine every single day. I never miss a day, and it takes maybe
Mhm.
5 minutes. So that's probably the biggest way. But I think to your question, Ellen, the bigger thing is you have to kind of make a decision. I always talk about when we get out of bed in the morning, you can get out on the left side or the right side of your bed, and you're either in a good mood or a bad mood. It's up, down, plus, minus, happy, sad, negative, positive. It's a choice. And it's a choice that everybody gets to make every day. And if you choose to be grateful, I tell people what gratitude does is it helps you to focus on what you have versus what you don't have.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite taglines is gratitude turns what you have into enough. And
Mhm.
it's so powerful because we're constantly, consciously or subconsciously, comparing ourselves to other people. And if you look at, they have a better boat, better house, better car, better wife, better husband. It's crazy. It's like a cat chasing its tail. So it's really a choice. And I tell people, if you write in that gratitude journal every day and really focus on, you've heard the glass half full, but if you focus on that, you just have a much better quality of life. It's
Mhm.
just better.
So I know sometimes, like, when you get out of gratitude, like, how do you get yourself back to that place? Like when you get into one of those bad moods, or you get into one of those places, something happens, something triggers you,
Yes.
and you're not
Yes.
really
And
thinking about gratitude right then. You're thinking about, "This sucks."
exactly. Well, and I think, for instance, that the old analogy about you fall off the horse, it's too bad you fell off. What's the key thing to do is to get back on the horse. And
Mhm.
people say the tragedy is not in falling down, but the tragedy is in not getting up. So gratitude and getting off on those detours or those tangents where it's negatives is a very, very typical part of life. And hopefully they're less and so on. But it's just that idea of getting up and dusting yourself off and getting back on. And I think that I notice with people, I've said to them, gosh, I mean, I had a great question the other day it was one of those in a Zoom where they asked me, and the guy says, questions for the gratitude guy after the talk. And this one it's all live. So that you can't rehearse anything. And he says, well, I have a question for you. My friend just was in a house fire in one of these many forest fires around the country, and he
Mhm.
lost everything except all he had is his two kids and his wife, but the house and the cars and everything burned out. What would you say to him? And I said, there's going to be people that are going to tell you that he should focus on the fact he's got his life, he's got his wife, he's got his kids, and he's got those blessings. And that's
Right,
true.
right.
But I said, the biggest thing you can give him is just the ability just to listen and let him talk and let him say whatever he wants to. Don't judge, don't comment, just listen and acknowledge. And you'll be doing him a great favor just by letting him express all the things that are going on in his head. Because every day is not a great day. And I always tell people when I can do my hand waving in front of the crowd about like a roller coaster, that's life. It's up and down. And whether it's David or Ellen or whoever, we all have ups and downs.
Mhm.
And the key is you want to have more ups than downs, but the downs are where you learn the lessons. And when we get back to the ups, we want to stay there if we can. But I think on those really tough downs, I've counseled people and coached people and said, when you have a really tough day, nothing is working right, you know what your main goal will be today? Just get to tomorrow, because
Right.
tomorrow will probably be better. So, but gratitude is kind of a power assist. And I tell people that I'm not going to pedal your bike, but I'll be your training wheels. And gratitude is kind of like a set of training wheels. It keeps the bike centered, but you got to do a lot of the pedaling yourself.
Yeah, also, about healing. Yeah, it's really counterproductive when people like are telling you should feel something other than you're feeling when you need to have those feelings first
Hmm.
and then getting through
Yeah.
so that you can
Yeah.
get back to gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right.
So, what about using gratitude for pandemic anxiety? How
Well,
does that
another
work?
another interesting aspect is what I call the silver linings of the coronavirus. There's been
Mhm.
all this terrible thing, and we could all choose. It's like as an example, I do an exercise where I do a lot of in my talks, a lot of interactive. We're now on Zoom, where they have a piece of paper and a pen. I have them write things down, and it shows how gratitude shifts your mindset. And I said, I have one example where I say, now have somebody pretend you're your biggest cheerleader, and I want you to write all the things down about Ellen. You are fantastic. You are creative. You are talented. You are, all the qualities of Ellen Violette as an example. And then when they reread it, I have them tell me if you felt better after you reread that, after you read all those things, is your biggest cheerleader. And so half the hands go up, if not 2/3 of them. And I said, one day I did that, and somebody came up to me and said, why do you have somebody write all the good things? Why don't you have them write their shortcomings? I said, what do you think this is? Is this like the negative hour? Is this like when things are, of course I'm going to have them write the positive things. So even in the coronavirus, as tough as it is, and the cases and people dying and lungs and not being able to breathe and all these terrible things, we still can see many things that are very positive out of it. And it's, again, you get a choice every single day to focus on the positive stuff or the negative. And a good example in the silver linings of coronavirus, one is like Zoom. Zoom has completely changed my practice, because now I'm speaking all across the country without having to get on an airplane. And you and I are not very close to, we're 1,000 miles apart or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so handy, and the efficiencies of it. I had a gentleman that I used to see for coffee, and I drive an hour and go to Starbucks and drive an hour back. Now we meet for Zoom on an hour, we have our coffee, and then we're done, and we save 2 hours. I've
Right.
saved 2 hours. And there's families that are having family dinner again that they didn't have because the kids were at home, and more quality time, that even though the schools, aren't necessarily in right now, they're getting this family time they'll never get back again, that they have. And then before you know it, you snap your fingers and the kids are gone. And I talk about how the all the conveniences of the apps and the things that are the software and the computers can do. I haven't been in a grocery store in 6 months. I mean,
Yeah, I haven't either.
I
Delivery,
mean,
delivery,
oh my,
delivery.
it's great. Knock on the door. There's Amazon
I
Fresh. It's
know,
like,
and I don't feel
oh,
guilty anymore. When I used to do it, I felt guilty. Now I'm like, hey, that's the thing now.
oh,
Yeah.
it's so true. And
Yeah.
I think even though there's a number of other aspects of it that are the silver linings, one of the things that gratitude does is it really forces you to sort of reassign your priorities, and you
Mhm.
really see what's important. And it turns out it is your health, and it is your family, it is your spouse or significant other, your children, that family and friends group. And we get off on these tracks. And as you said, Ellen, earlier, it's a great point. We go down these rabbit holes of negativity, and we get
Mhm.
caught. Whoa, what's going on here? And we've got to kind of realign those priorities. And gratitude really helps you to do that. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Well, yeah, another thing I really love about the pandemic is all the people who have put educational programs online that they weren't doing online before.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone
Mm-hmm.
to quote live events, where before you had to get on a plane and go there, and it's a 3-day event. You got to get a hotel room and all that stuff. And it was a real pain to do it. And we eat all organic, and doing with the food is hard and everything. And now I'm doing them from home. I've gone to next week will be my third one, my third live event. And a lot of people are doing challenges, and I have one coming up if it hasn't already happened by the time this airs. And it's great. I mean, that really is the silver lining. For me, the downside too is, as I was telling you before we started, my hair is just, to me, a train wreck. I can't get a haircut because now it's too cold to be sitting outside to do it. I just finally found someone who could cut my hair
Oh,
outside.
wow.
And then I was on a networking call this morning, somebody who does photography, branding and headshots and all that. And I haven't
Mhm.
had that done in a long time, but I just told her I'm not going to do it until after I get my haircut. And I'm probably not getting my haircut until spring. So there you go. So everybody get used to it. But yeah, but there's a lot of good things. And then there's some things that are, but, I think the hardest part, though, is just being cooped up. I mean, because
Yeah,
I worked at home before, this
right.
happened. I've been working at home since 2000. Actually, I've been working at home practically my whole life because I used to be in the music business and we had our own studio. So
Oh,
I've
well.
had very few jobs in my life. I've had a few,
Mhm.
but
But
but,
I think that's a good point about being cooped up though, because
yeah.
I sort of expanded my exercise as this roughly started in March of
Mhm, yeah,
2020, earlier this year, of course. So we're in our seventh, eighth month, whatever it is now.
right.
And so I would start working in my condo, and I've got Zoom, and I've got my videos and all the things that I need to create content and hook up
Mhm,
and coach people through Zoom and so forth. But what I noticed that I did, because I'll work a usual 10, 11-hour day or something. So I started taking an hour, maybe a half hour at first, then an hour out to exercise and go walk. And I'll shoot videos and I'll listen to podcasts, which are great. I was on a walk the other day when I
oh,
was
uh-huh.
listening to a couple of yours. And now I walk for 2 hours, and that's about 15 to 18,000 steps. It's about
Wow,
6 to 7 miles. But I noticed that again with technology, I have my phone so I can shoot a couple of videos. Hi, it's David George Brooke, that gratitude guy in the gratitude walk. And I'm out shooting those videos. I put on all sorts of social media. Then I listen to a couple of podcasts. I'll call a couple of people I owe phone calls to. I'll put some notes on my notepad on the phone I'm thinking of. Be sure to call Ellen back. And I put it on the yellow notepad thing. And so you have this, you're out there getting fresh air, getting this exercise. You're still multitasking, which makes you feel like you're accomplishing something. But
mhm,
it's now, I knew what time I was speaking to you today. So I thought once I got up and went through and wrote in the gratitude journal and meditated and drank the water and do all the normal things that we kind of do as daily rituals, I
right.
thought, well, I think I'll be gone from about 9 to about 11. And I was out for about 2 hours. But that's really that kind of gets that being cooped up not so bad, because
Well,
you've
you
got
know what?
fresh air and everything.
Yeah, that's a great tip though. I mean, for people to see how they can better use their time. It's
Yeah.
hard for me because my husband doesn't like to be left alone. He's 89. And
Mm.
so we walk together and he just can't walk that long,
Oh, yeah.
that far.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm feeling a little cooped up. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I try to, dance in the house and, do some other exercise things. But yeah, it does kind of get to me after a while. I really do love the fresh air and the sunshine. And also we have a pool where we live, but they're not letting anyone in. So we can't
Oh,
even go sit down there or
yeah.
anything.
But Ellen, I even think about something like with your husband,
Yeah.
as I can picture where with a cell phone, you could also make a loop around the neighborhood or something where you're just within 2 or 3 minutes of the house all the time. It makes 6 or 7 or
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
number of loops.
that's what we've been working on doing.
That's it. That would
Yeah,
be,
we
you're
kind
just
of
a few minutes away in case he needs you or something like
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, we live on a dead end street, so we've
Oh,
kind of
okay.
been making our way up, and we're almost to the point where we're ready to go up and back. So
Oh,
that's
nice.
yeah, so
Nice.
that's where we are now. But yeah,
Yeah.
but we've had a couple setbacks, but it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So how does gratitude impact professionally and personally?
Well, I think if you look at our personal lives where you interact with your family and friends and your spouse and girlfriends, boyfriends, whoever it might be, you still, I have this thing about, I always like to present the same person every single time.
Mhm.
And you can always count on me. You can be consistent. And Ellen's not going to go, David, how are you? What do you need, Ellen? And you go, oh, whoa, what's wrong with David? And so that goes true for our relationships too, is that we owe it to people to present the same person every time. Because if you don't, that person thinks that they've done something wrong. Why is he mad
Well,
at me? Why is she mad at me?
unless you're something's happened or you're in a bad
Well,
mood or something
yes,
like
yes,
that,
that
and
would,
you just tell them. 'Cause
yeah.
I mean, my husband and I, we have to do that or we would kill each other,
Well,
with this coronavirus,
right.
but the other day I was snapping about something and, he said, "Why are you, snapping at me?" And I just said, I'm just mad at the world right now. You
Yeah,
just leave me
yeah.
alone."
And the
You know?
reason I mention it, whether it's in the personal or the business, is because the personal
Yeah.
sense is what you and I are talking about. The professional sense is I've managed people all my life. And as
Mhm.
again, as a manager, it's very similar. I think raising children, managing people is same. You've got to set a very good example and you
Mhm.
have to be consistent all the time. Because again, if you're different, then they think you're mad at them or something. So how does gratitude figure into that. One of the exercises that I do is when I have somebody do what I call the daily number. And so they put the number down. It's 1 to 10. And I tell them this is a very personal exercise. You're not going to share this with anybody. So write down your number right now, 1 to 10. And 10 is the best day of your life, and 1 is one of the worst days of your life. So they put the number down. I say, now don't tell anybody, put a circle around it. Now, next, I want you to write down the number one thing you're grateful for. So I give them that moment. Okay, now if you could only pick 2 things, write that down. And then finally, 3 things. These would be the top 3 things you're grateful for in order of priority. And I don't lead the witness, but I would hope a lot of people put their health at number 1, because without that, you don't have much else. But whatever it might be, that's number 1, number 2, and number 3. And then I tell them now number 4 is write down what was the highlight of your day. What was the best thing that happened to you yesterday? And I'll give them a chance to think about it. So then I say, now reread those 4 things just silently to yourself. And then I want you to put another daily number at the bottom and put a circle around that. And then I go, now by show of hands, high five in the screen or high five in the chat or whatever it might be. How many people's number after reading those 4 things went up? Half the people raised their hand. And so that's my example of giving somebody a live, breathing example of how gratitude can affect you. So by doing that and by always focusing on what you have versus what you don't have, you can acknowledge what you don't have, but keep it in its place and realize that you're going to get things solved from the positive side, not from the negative side. We know that 2 people go into a hospital with the same disease, the positive attitude lives, the negative attitude dies. They've proven that many times. So whether it's personally or professionally, if you're in a better state of mind, you're going to present yourself better. And that's by focusing on what you have, and this writing it down is so important. And I might add too, I know we're on the radio, but is with this, the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal, there's a little saying in the upper left-hand corner, and it says, if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you. And there's something about writing. I am so grateful to Ellen Violette for inviting me to be on her podcast. And it plants it in the brain. So both of those situations, personally or professionally, you just present such a better example of you by being from a grateful mindset.
Right. So also, I would think that would be the same with peak performance at at a higher level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I love that you've given some actual exercises for people to do. Anything else you want to share about that before we talk about your book a little more?
Sure. On the Gratitude Journal, it's the reason I like this, and you can get it on Amazon. It's the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal. The reason I like it because it's already formatted for you. It's got a template, so you have everything. You can't really, of course, you can't see it, but it says gratitude today, and you list the day and the date, and then there's the daily number we just talked about. Then there's 2 lines for current events and special occasions, so you don't need to have a diary also. You can write that. Then it says, I'm so grateful for, and there's about 5 or 6 lines of what you're grateful for. There's 2 lines for the highlight of the day, which we just talked about. So that's focusing on. And if you write in the morning, for instance, then I tell people, what was the highlight of your day yesterday? You write that. And then on the right-hand side is gratitude tomorrow. And I tell people they don't have to write in that every day, but I write in that every day about what I'm going to be grateful for that hasn't even happened yet. And because you can say, I'm so grateful for speaking to 10,000 people, and that was before I even ever spoke to 10,000 people.
Oh, yeah. That's like Jim Carrey carried around $1 million bill.
The check. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Great example. And I would write, I'm so grateful to speak to 100 people. Then it was 100, then 1,000, and 10,000. And then I said, I'm just grateful to be speaking to 1 million people. And I had a video hit 1 million hits, 1 million views. Yay. And I know it was planted because it was planted in here. So I recommend the Gratitude Journal. And the biggest tip that I give people that, well, I'm busy and I have this to do and everything is I say, you know what, here's my ask is just try it for a week. Just try it for a week, and every day write down Friday, November 13th, and I'm grateful to Ellen. I'm grateful for my health, whatever you want, and try it for a week and notice what it'll do for you. And most everybody that tries it for weeks will keep doing it. And so it's just the old thing. You just start with small steps and baby steps and go from there. But it's so powerful. And there's something about the writing of it too, as I mentioned in the the little saying on the front, because I noticed that these there's apps you can go, I'm so grateful to Ellen. It'll type it
Mhm.
right there, but it's not the same
No,
of
it's not the
having the
same.
pen and putting it on paper. And then one of the great bonuses, I love to go back, like you mentioned when you and I met at the Magic Castle.
Mhm.
I've gone back to journals saying, when was that? And I'll see, and then I'll notice, oh, I met Ellen Viola, had a nice chat today with under special, events or whatever happening. And it's neat. And then I've had a tough day when bad things have happened, and I see what I wrote that day, and it's very helpful to kind of get your mind back in the positive place.
By the way, I just want to tell people, I mean, we met, that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It was quite a while
And
ago.
and we hadn't talked, but David was on my mind. I mean, it never went out of my mind
Oh, thank you.
because when I was looking for guests, I contacted him. I said, "Do you remember me?" He
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, of course I remember you." But yeah, so you never know when a connection is going to turn into something,
Exactly.
more when you
Exactly.
guys can work together. It just has to be the right time, the right thing.
Exactly. And it's interesting, Ellen, you've heard this, the glass half full, half empty, and that's
Yeah.
probably the oldest example we use. But when I'm in person, I have everybody stand up and put their hands in a clockwise manner, and then reach your arm way up high and turn it clockwise. Now keep bringing it slower, lower and lower and lower and down to your waist. I go, now which direction is it going? Now it's going counterclockwise. And they all do like, what happened? I was doing it the same thing. And I start laughing. I said, it's just because you look at it from above and below.
Mhm.
One looks clockwise, one's counterclockwise, but it's my way of illustrating you have that choice to decide how you want to look at something every single day. So,
Well, let me ask you one more question. How did you write the journal? Do you have any tips for writing journals?
yeah, the journal it's interesting because there was another book I did, 6-word lessons to embrace gratitude, that was mentioned in the bio.
Mhm.
And the journal, in fact, I've had some of these fraternity brothers that I've had for years. And as I said, I've got the template, and you can't see it on the radio, but it just shows
Right.
you kind of fill in the lines. But I had one of my fraternity brothers I've known for 40 or 50 years said, so is this your top selling book? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, it's just basically a bunch of lines.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. I said, but it kind of has everybody fill it out. So I tell, my biggest tip is not only to just give it a try, but don't necessarily, I fill out all the pages. In fact, you can see, and again, you can't see, but Ellen can see, and every single day it's all filled out on both sides. And when I'm selling the books live and they come up to the table afterwards, I had this one young man come up to me once after the talk, and he
Mhm.
said, is this your personal journal? And I said, yeah, I use my own, of course. And he says, he starts looking through it, and he said, can I look through it? And I said, yeah, don't look too closely, but you can look through it. And so he
Yeah, yeah.
flips through it, and he goes, wow, you write in this every day. I said, were you listening to the talk? Did you hear
Yeah.
the talk just now? Or were you, no, I
Well,
just
what do you
write.
do? Use a new one every year?
They last for 3 months
Oh,
because
3 months.
they're about 90 days worth. And
Mhm.
so I have about 4 a year for every year. But like I say, the biggest tip by far, and I just think it's a great tip on a lot of things, is just give it a try and
Mhm.
notice and really take a sort of a assessment of your mood and see how you are before and after you write in that gratitude journal. And again, 90% of the people feel better afterwards. So why wouldn't that make sense to write in it every day?
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. This is really good stuff. And
Thank you.
we're going to get the book. Okay, so it's the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal. I
Mhm.
do have an affiliate link to it if you want to go through me. It's http://ellenlikes.com/gratitude journal. And I do appreciate people going through my link because it helps me um, support this podcast.
Yes.
So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, well, thank you again so much. I'm so glad we finally got to talk.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, that's it for today. To get the transcript, go to https://booksbusinessabundance.com/podcast. And you're also welcome to join our Facebook group. I hope you will. That link is on the podcast page. I've consolidated the two groups, and this is the last time I'm going to mention that because it's been several weeks now. But there's you'll still get the first notice of the new podcast, but there's also a lot of engagement in the group now, networking, support, promotional opportunities, and more. And when you go to the podcast page at booksbusinessabundance.com/podcast, be sure to grab a copy of the book Planning Secrets, a simple 4-step guide to writing a bestseller. If you like to write your own books, if you want to write books, if you're already writing them but you want to do it faster and easier, be sure to pick that up. It'll help you. So till next time, that's it for today. Bye-bye.